Hello, Sad Nation. This week is National Teen Driver Safety Week, a time dedicated to spreading the word and seeking solutions to prevent teen injuries and fatalities on our roadways. Did you know that vehicle crashes continue to be a leading cause of death for teens? For this reason, we're thrilled to have you join us for our Agents of Change series, presented by State Farm and SAD. As young people learn to drive, we want to make sure that both teens and parents are equipped with the tips and knowledge they need to make it from point A to point B safely. We're thrilled to have an all-star panel with us today. Please join me in welcoming our Agents of Change. First up from Arizona, we have Jill. Coming to us from California is Tabitha. Hannah is here from Michigan. From New York, we have Tom. And last but not least, we have Maria from Texas. Welcome, everyone. In this episode, we're discussing current safety features in vehicles and how to identify and utilize these features to your advantage. Jill, let's kick the conversation off with your insight on this topic.
Thank you. And just so you all remember, I'm from Arizona. I'm going to throw in something special, and that would be my hat. So coming to you from Arizona, I want to talk about some of the safety features and how excited we are about these. Today's new vehicles are just packed with safety features that protect not only the driver, the passengers in that car, but other vehicles as well, and sometimes even pedestrians. And you might not even realize that your car has some of the features we're going to talk about today, and because they're proactive. So basically, these features are thinking without you thinking. They're thinking ahead of you. And this gives them the potential to prevent crashes before they ever have the chance to happen. We're talking about real life-saving stuff here.
You know, Jill, I can't help but think that this is the perfect time to discuss vehicle technology. So thank you for that. And also, since you put on the hat, I guess I'm going to bring our very different type of plants that we have here in California. Don't know if you can see that. So it's National Teen Driver Safety Week. And as we mentioned, car crashes are still the leading cause of death for teens. I know it's a common practice to get a new driver an older vehicle to start with because it's typically cheaper. And I too used to have that same mentality many years ago. I used to think, why pay more when the chance of the inexperienced driver crashing is much higher? Well, teens are the ones who can benefit most from these life-saving technologies in newer model vehicles today. Starting with an older vehicle may not be the safest decision anymore or the wisest.
Make a really great point, Tabitha. Hi, I'm Hannah from Michigan, and although I don't have anything to show you from Michigan, we're about to go into our cold, gray, dreary season. So I've got my hometown of San Francisco behind me because that's way cooler. Anyways, listen, I want to remind you guys, I've got a 15-year-old driver of my own at home, and this is nerve-wracking for me as it is for many parents. But probably the most important thing I can tell you is technology truly is incredible and life-saving, like both of you have said. However, it's really there just to help. It is not there to replace the driver. We have to be really, really careful about that. In 2021, we're seeing some of the best advancements we've seen yet with self-driving vehicles, or autonomous as they're called. But that's not a standard reality. So as a driver, you've got to be alert all the time behind the wheel. And even if it's got that technology that makes driving easier, it's important that you're always aware of your surroundings as if you are in complete control of the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Hannah. Exactly, and I agree with you 110%. I'm from New York. When most people think of New York, they think of the city. I'm actually 6 hours north of the city, up by the Canadian border. So that just gives you a little perspective of where I'm located. You know, we've come a long way from airbags and seatbelts being the top-notch safety features in today's vehicles. But with all the high-tech features that help us perform the task of driving more safely and efficiently than ever, it's important that you do not become distracted or surprised by these technologies. It's that much more important to become more familiar with what your vehicle is equipped with before you even hit the road.
I can't stress that enough, Tom. I myself have teenage drivers. I have a college kid that's in a little country town, and I have a 14-year-old that's already ready to get on the wheel. I'm going to say take time to check out the owner's manual and see what safety features are available. look over the vehicle and identify where the features are located, and practice working with technologies. I can't stress that enough. I've had my ends of you're in a moment where there's a wreck in front of you and I get off and I don't know where to go and touch things on the new modern car. That way, when the time comes to use them and when they function in a scenario on their own, you're not surprised and you're not with like locked hands. You'll know where to maneuver in anything you have to do.
Spot on, agents. The technology we see in newer vehicles today used to only be found in luxury vehicles, and now it's becoming standard in the newer makes and models. Agents, let's dive into the details about some of these specific safety features that can be used to the driver's advantage that we see in vehicles today.
Hey, I'd love to kick us off with one of my favorites, and this is called the forward collision warning. This one became very meaningful to me just last week. So let's talk about how it works. The system used a forward-facing sensor, which is usually on the front of your car, to monitor the distance and speed, it's guessing, between you and any object or vehicle that's in front of you. So it scans ahead of the road while you're driving. Basically, again, it's being proactive, it's thinking on your behalf. So it's going to try to figure out how close you are to the vehicle in front of you, and if it senses that there is an impending impact, like somebody has stopped very abruptly in front of you, or you're just following too close, it's going to do one of several things. And like we just said, you want to know what that is so it doesn't scare you if it happens, because it could be that something shakes, like the steering wheel or the seat. It could also be that a loud sound occurs, or on your screen, your screen for navigation, everything. It could have a huge warning sign, or it could be doing a combination of these things. So how cool is that? So I got to tell you what happened to me last week. I had my grandchildren with me. They are precious cargo to me. And a gentleman going 65 miles an hour down the highway, all of a sudden slammed on his brakes for no reason, just so you know, and came to a complete and abrupt stop. In the vehicle I was driving, I started to brake, and it basically said, "You're not braking fast enough," and it slammed on the brakes on my vehicle, stopping within about 18 inches of the vehicle in front of me. So saved my passengers, myself. We had no crash, no impact. How cool is that?
Jill, that is so cool. And I'm so happy to hear that you all came out of it so safe. And it is because of technology today. So I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation for all of you. But let's talk about adaptive headlights. You've got that right. Another safety feature that lends the driver a hand is adaptive headlights. These headlights pivot toward the direction you're traveling and are great for improving your visibility around curves. Essentially, they're headlights that follow the road. Did you get that? Headlights that follow the road. How great is that? To utilize this safety feature, you don't have to do anything at all. Your vehicle is going to do it all for you. As always, make sure to scan the road, though, as objects or other vehicles are illuminated by these headlights. Be aware and be safe when you're out there.
That's great, Tabitha. So I'd like to talk about blind spots. I think we hear this term a lot, but you might not really know what that is. And one of the important things to remember is that your blind spots can be different every time you get into your mom's car, your dad's car, your grandparents' car. It's always different. It's based on what your sight of vision is, height, where you sit in the car, et cetera. And so it's basically a hidden spot that can lead to a car crash or a collision. If you can't see when you go to change lanes, it's somebody coming up behind you on the right or left in an area that you can't see clearly. So blind spot monitoring systems visually alert you when a vehicle is traveling in that blind spot. And traditionally, it'll either be like a beep or a light that will get louder or brighter to let you know that that's happening as you're starting to change lanes. Some of these even activate the steering or the brakes themselves, which can be turned on and off traditionally in cars. But it's another feature that's become standard, and it plays a very essential role in driver safety.
Thanks, Hannah. I'd like to talk about lane departure warning. Lane departure warnings will help you stay in your lane, and that's very important. This system often uses a camera near the rear view mirror, keeping track of your vehicle's position in a lane. Any movement to leave the lane unintentionally including merging without signaling, creates an alert sound, steering wheel or seat vibration, and visual cues on the dashboard. Some systems also use light steering or braking to correct a lane departure. However, it's important to note that when the lane lines are covered or faded, this technology doesn't always perform the best.
Thank you so much, Tom. Wow, these are great samples out here. Another good one is backup cameras. What would we do without backup cameras? I will say in my own life, I drive a car that has my face all over it. So I have to make sure that I'm aware of all my surroundings all day long. Backup cameras help drivers avoid collisions with parking or reversing, using sensors to alert you of the objects behind your vehicle and sometimes even on the side, day or night. Of course, you'll want to regularly check the lens to make sure that it is clean. So when you go to use it, that the camera is clear. And I will say, being in Texas, we go back roading and our camera gets dirty all the time. So I have to go back there and kind of just push on it. While this technology is incredible, you don't want to completely rely on it. Always check behind you by looking over your shoulders and using your mirrors. After you do that, shift your car in reverse and your backup camera will activate.
Wow, it's incredible to see how far technology has come just in our lifetime. As always, panelists, you've given us so much to think about today. As we wrap up, I'd be curious, what's one piece of advice that you would give to teen drivers as they learn to navigate the roadways?
The one thing that I would tell everyone, and this goes for pretty much all ages, but especially teens, is I'm going to give you permission to be courageous. So if you are in a vehicle where that teen driver is not driving safely, I want to give you permission to tell them, I'd like to be dropped off at this next corner. Please drop me off at the next convenience store. Oh, it's time for me to get home. Get out of that car before something happens. And the same situation, when you're driving, I want to give you permission to ask someone else to get out and just say, I'm going to drop you off at your house right now. Be courageous. It could save your life or someone else's.
You know, Jill, I was actually going to say something else, but because you just mentioned that, I have a story. My daughter, who's 29 years old now, so I've been there, done that, the fear, the worry of, them coming home safely and who's driving and just making wise decisions, right? So I'm proud of my daughter because at the age of 16 years old, she was in a vehicle with 3 other people and they were going through a road called Mulholland Drive. There's a movie about this road, Mulholland Drive. It's very windy and it's at the top of the mountain, stretching from one city to 5 cities later. And it's for miles long. And he was doing about 70 miles an hour. And my daughter was screaming in the back, stop the car, pull over. She got out of the car and called me to come pick her up. She never spoke to that person again. And these stories are real. It happens all the time. But her advice would be, and I'm going to share her advice besides that, is stay 2 lanes away from any vehicle on the road, whether you're on the street or freeway, so you have enough room to stop for emergency purposes. But not just that, stay 1 vehicle away from the vehicle in front of you when you're stopped at any stop sign or light, because you never know when you need to get out of a sticky situation.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, so like I said, I've got a teen driver, and this is a message that I continually say to him. You come out of driver's training and you're full of knowledge and you're full of confidence and you get on the road and you know all the rights and wrongs and the black and whites from the textbook. But just because you're paying attention and you're making all the right choices doesn't mean that the people around you are doing the same thing. So just like if you're playing football or you're on the basketball team and there's an offense team and a defense team, don't just drive offensively where you're only thinking about what you're doing. Drive defensively as well. Look around you. Make sure the person behind you is stopping as fast as you stopped. Make sure the person next to you is not on their phone because they're going to react slower than you did. And just always be aware of everything around you at all times. It doesn't stop at your car. It's all around you.
Thanks, Hannah. And I would offer, and maybe build onto that, I would offer 2 tips. Tip number 1 is never rely or trust the other drivers around you. You need to be consciously aware, checking your side view mirrors, your rear view mirror, and watching things like intersections and other areas where traffic is merging into where you're driving. And at the same time, on the second tip, especially up where I am from, animals are everywhere. We had a situation where we had as many as 15 deer claims in one day. One day. So that doesn't count all of the deer that missed the vehicles, swerving and whatnot. But we have learned, and if there's anything that I can stress to you as a teen driver or a driver in general, be aware of the sides of the roads, looking for animals, especially at night, and try not to swerve to miss the animal, because that can lead to something even more detrimental.
Dangerous.
Lose control, go off the road, hit a tree or whatnot. Try to do safe braking, whatnot. Unfortunately, if the animal is hit, it is what it is, but we can replace a vehicle. We cannot replace a life. So be aware of your surroundings and always be watching the side of the roads.
Thank you, Tom. Those are great examples. All of these agents have given great examples. I am going to, we could probably talk about this all day long, but one of my biggest ones, I actually sit and I do student patrol. So I go to the school and I'm doing the cross and doing kind of my volunteer work. So I will say my eyes have seen lots of teens driving by and they're not paying attention. You know, the little ones, they don't see the cars. The little ones are just trying to cross the street. They're talking to their friends. They're holding their backpacks and everything that they have. So I would say be very conscious of the school zones. Make sure that you're looking at your surroundings. That is just one area that's very, very scary. But like I said, the distracted would be the other one. We might let the vehicle distract us with the radio. We want to have the radio. We might get a text. Discipline yourself. Your life is more valuable than anything else, and everything else can wait. So we thank you.
These are great tips all around, agents. I again want to thank our esteemed panel from State Farm. And of course, you, Sad Nation, our followers, for helping us share the rules of the road as we observe National Teen Driver Safety Week. That's all the time we have for now. Be safe, every trip, every time.